Morning. Well, before we get started, I'll start off on good news. We have filled the position of legal secretary, and she will start on the 18th. And in light of that, I've updated my sheet with her actual salary. As well as I noticed that there were a couple of numbers in the justification. I think they were typos, but I've corrected those as well, so I'll pass those out to everybody.
It kind of goes without saying, we've got funding in there for the county attorney position, which is vacant. Of course, we're using services lit in sight. At some point during the year, we'll transfer money out of that budget line over to account for that cost. But at least I'd say things have been working well so far, and the relationship between, it's good that Caitlin's here and able to see staff on a daily basis when stuff comes up. And Jason's usually available by phone or email as well. But
No, it's been working really well. Coordinating with Jason and having his support. But for the first part, as far as the salary personnel items go, that is my correct salary listed. That will be the legal secretary's position, but pretty much the rest of the numbers are in fluctuation because we do have the county attorney position still vacant. The rest of the numbers are reflective of just what the office needs in order to function. As far as filing and service fees go, whether that would be filing a petition or filing a deed with the court, postage, that sending out letter, contracts that we have with third parties. And then, of course, with me taking on more of the DSS cases, there's a lot more letters and documents going out just due to I'm in court a lot more, so there's a lot more orders being entered that have to be dispersed and that sort of thing. Telephone, I think that goes without saying, we need a telephone in order to function. Office supplies, the books and subscriptions, just so the board is clear, we need that in order to get the updated code sections from the code, which provides annotations for cases that have been heard by circuit courts, courts of appeals, Supreme Court, as well as the acts of assembly. We get updates regularly for the books that we have in the office. So those go to fund the supplements that we essentially get. And then also an evidence book and a code book that I need to take to court with me. Those are all covered within that category. Travel and training, it is required, the Virginia State Bar requires that an attorney have continuing legal education credits, 12 per year, so that cost is covered here, as well as travel, because generally what happens is the local government associations puts on 2 conferences, one in the fall, one in the spring, that covers their CLE costs, but the conferences move throughout the state, so that travel is covered in that. Unclassified, that, as I'm sure you've heard, well, I know you've heard before, that just covers any expenses that may crop up that don't fall with any of our categories. The computer equipment, the one for the legal secretary, it is 12 years old. So we need that money just to account for if we need to update, and then also if we get a new county attorney an iPad, which is really helpful when you go to court and need immediate access to either the Warren County Code or the Virginia Code or something else like that. And then professional services, that is a 0, but that is where we're sort of working to cover the cost of
so eventually, once this budget's adopted, we can start charging, if we stay with it, it's like charge it to that line versus the board's professional services line, so you see it under the county attorney. In that case, we would just transfer money from 101 above down to the professional line, if that was the case. So just being prepared.
But that is all I have if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Caitlin.
So I lucked out, and we currently are using an outsourced county attorney. So how does that impact this?
So
this
what,
budgeted salary
basically
amount?
what Jason Ham's charges are being charged against the board's professional services line, as are Stan Sanderson and stuff. But, so what we'll do, as we get towards the end of the year, we'll transfer money out of the county attorney line, which is sitting there now, to offset the cost of living in site.
Okay,
So at some point, we'll have to make that adjustment, that transfer of funds to cover that cost.
so is it more cost effective to keep it outsourced?
We'll find out at the end of the year.
Okay.
You know, my guess is you'll spend more than 106,000. This is not what I would call a normal year.
Right,
I think in some instances they found, because I think they cover Winchester, Williamsboro, and Shenandoah, you know, some have stuck because in normal years maybe cheaper.
right,
And the good part about having your own personal and staff is that, you know, if you have a lot of stuff come up, the salary's still the same. It's a salary position, so whether you're working 60 hours a week or 40 hours a week.
yeah,
You
right.
do, no doubt, absolutely. You don't have a benefit cost, so you have to really look at, you know, that take 30%, $140,000 that the position cost you at the end of the day. Are we spending that with outside counsel? So that, I think we'll have, you know, as we get towards the end of the budget year, you'll be able to know pretty well how does that stack up.
I think other jurisdictions do outsource, do they? Yeah.
Well, they're both.
Surrounding, yeah.
Frederick, no. Clark, yes.
Yep.
Shenandoah, yes,
Yes.
although I think they may be looking at going back to their own
Right,
staff
Winchester,
attorney. Fauquier, no. They have their own staff attorney. Rappahannock has like a part-time person that serves.
right,
Page used to have a part-time attorney that served.
okay.
Does any of your work come from planning and zoning, from those departments?
I do. I do a lot of work with zoning, just with prosecuting zoning violations, and then also working with them to update ordinances. So I work with Joe very regularly.
You also cover planning commission meetings.
And I cover the planning commission meetings and also continue to prosecute code violations. So Warren County code violations. So if we had our first firearms in the sanitary district hearing, and then those sort of things. We used to cover debt collections, but in order to maintain that, it is very timely. It takes a lot of time to keep track of all the filings, all of the payments that have been made, and we just don't have the resources right now. In fact, it is typically covered by the treasurer's office. Jen, our former paralegal, she was actually the only county attorney or paralegal who would go to the trainings that they had for debt collections. But that is something that we have recently stopped just because we don't have, I don't have the ability to spend, that would be my entire time would be spent on debt
Now, when
collections.
Dana come on board, you'll have.
DSS must take.
But now DSS, that's the thing as well, because DSS is very time consuming because I'm in court pretty much every week, and there's a lot of petitions that have to be filed, a lot of affidavits that have to be drafted. It's just, it takes up a lot of time, not only to generate those things, but to file them, to maintain them, to scan them and save them, and
Sit in court and wait your turn.
right, and then also just to prepare for court, whether it be, meeting with witnesses, issuing subpoenas, those sorts of things. So it is, both of those are very time consuming, and DSS will become even more time consuming as we're making the transition now of cases being shifted from Neil to myself.
It's more cost effective to have Caitlin here to run over and handle the zoning case than paying somebody to drive an hour and then drive an hour back for that half an hour case time, or sitting in there waiting for them to hear the other cases. So.
Right, very, very much so. So there's that, and then also I've been doing a lot of drafting the contracts, handling lease agreements, those
How much
types
of that
things.
would be shifted to, if we had full-time, what was the priors, he was doing a lot of that then?
I would say when Dan Whitten was the assistant, Blair was here, Dan was doing most of the contract stuff and handling planning commission, and so Caitlin was doing a lot of what Dan used to do as the assistant.
And then he took care of DSS as well? Or-
No.
It's
No.
always
No.
been, Neil Knudsen has been the DSS attorney for,
Okay.
I think, 19 years, and he works through a private firm.
Okay.
So we're just, the entire office pretty much is in a fluctuating
Complete,
state
yeah.
right now. So but it's going well, and you know, especially with DSS, the transition's going very smoothly, and then working with Jason has been very smooth as well. And then also just having me here on site to answer even legal research questions, to do drafts, those types of things. It's been working very well.
And you don't feel, I mean,
Overwhelmed?
I just feel like you've got to be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It's manageable. I mean, it is overwhelming, but at the same time, everyone I'm working with has been very understanding just with timelines, because at the end of the day, DSS will have to come first, just like zoning cases will have to come first, because I have to operate within the court's timeline. So if I have a hearing, I've got to prep for that hearing before I can do like a contract that doesn't have that type of deadline. So I haven't been able to accomplish projects as quickly as I would like, but everyone's been understanding, and I'm slowly
I think
chipping
the other
away.
thing is that, it's not just Jason and his firm, there's 3 or 4 other people, they have a real estate person, and
Right.
so if you have like, there's 5 things this week that have to get done, there are other people that Jason can bring in.
Right,
Right.
right.
Address
Well,
it and make sure.
Yeah.
You feel confident this legal secretary is gonna help?
Very, very much so.
Have you
Because she'll
hired
be,
somebody?
we have. She
Okay.
will start on the 18th.
Okay, I was abreast, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. She's starting on the 18th. She will definitely be a huge help, because she's going to help manage the files. Instead of me spending time, like I just sent out like a Parks and Rec lease agreement with the Front Rural Software Association. That took 30 minutes just to get everything printed, to get everything copied, so I could have a record, to get
And
the
she'll do
envelope
that.
ready. Those types of things that just take up so much time, she'll be able to do all of that, and it will. And then with DSS, because the petitions and orders in DSS cases are forms that are generated through the state, she will be able to help me draft those. What she, I get her trained, and so it will definitely be a huge help to the office in making sure that it's running more smoothly and more, more quickly.
Well, Caitlin, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming.
He's got back issues too.
Do you? You have to step around me? Hey,
No go.
Rocket.
thanks, General Services, for coming in and visiting and telling us about your budget.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I'll just do a quick overview on mine. The proposed budget for general services is just over 1.4 million. So that's an increase of 0.08%, so it's pretty flat. Over the last 2 years, just kind of a history, we have moved several employees over from Parks and Recreation into general services. That included 2 full-time maintenance techs, a full-time custodian, and 3 part-time custodians. And the idea behind that was basically to allow general services to assume the responsibility of maintaining all of our county-owned facilities, and have Parks and Rec maintenance kind of assume a more traditional grounds maintenance role. Budget continues to be dominated.
Brandon, just add that kind of coincided with us taking over the mowing for all the school facilities. So
Right.
what Brad had, you'll hear from Brad later. Brad, they're responsible for not only all our stuff, but every school as well. So that kind of shifted some of that responsibility, consolidated.
Budget continues to be dominated a lot by electrical costs. That's about 15% of the total, along with repairs and maintenance, which is just over 16%. With both of those amounts, I can honestly say they probably won't be sufficient for the expenditures for the upcoming year. We will have to pull some money, either out of other line items or possibly other budgets to cover that. Honestly, it's just going to depend on electric usage and rates. With that being out of my control, it does kind of make my budget a little bit unique. We've also started looking at prioritizing the work orders that we do get in. We usually are very gracious with completing work orders as they come in, but at this point, we're gonna have to start looking at some of them and prioritizing them based on what funding we're gonna have available for them. So some of the stuff that may be cosmetic or that's not necessary to the function of their office that day, like if they want an office painted or something like that, it may have to get bumped down the list a little bit to take care of an electrical issue or stuff like that. We have several goals coming up for the next fiscal year, including the development of a system that'll track our required inspections and preventative maintenance for all of our facilities. That includes everything from backflow preventers to fire panels, fire extinguishers, just a variety of inspections, roof inspections, that type of thing. Continue to try to develop a micro capital improvement plan. Our current CIP has a threshold of $50,000. I'm kind of looking at smaller projects that aren't going to hit that threshold so that we can prioritize the smaller projects and hopefully identify funding to implement some of those. We'll also provide oversight for a variety of projects, Rivermont being the obvious one. Construction on that will wrap up at the end of this year. Renovation of several facilities such as the bottom floor of the Hillage Street property, potentially renovating the old Sheriff's Office property. Department of Corrections is interested in that. Renovation of the voter registrar space for the new finance office, that's actually under construction right now. Construction of the fire and rescue training facility, replacement of the phone system at the courthouse and the government center. Courthouse specifically, we've run out of phone lines. We have no more lines to add without replacing the system. So we have been meeting with vendors about getting pricing on replacing that. Renovation of the Rockland Park bathhouse, roof replacement of the North Warren Fire Station, which hopefully that invitation for bids will be out in the next week or so. Construction of the Morgan Ford boat landing, and then just a variety of roofing and HVAC projects as they come up. One of my big goals over the next year or two, and it is going to take a little bit of time, is the implementation of an annual fire marshal inspection program. We don't currently have a schedule set where every one of our properties is inspected by the fire marshal. So I'd like to work with fire and rescue to get that implemented.
Can that be requested? I mean, if something looks awry, can you?
Yes, sir. I've had the fire marshal look at some of the concession stands before when we had an issue with an outlet that had some charring on it. So we immediately brought them in to look at it, see if there was anything going on that he needed to look at, and then got our electrician in to fix it.
But we currently don't have fire inspection scheduled for any of the buildings, schools, or anything?
The schools are taken care of. They have their program. They handle that with Mr. Maiatico. But I would like to get our buildings on a schedule, just like I have all of our backflow preventers on a schedule and everything else.
Could we go back on did you say the renovation of the old sheriff's department? You said?
We've had interest from general services. I've also heard they're potentially looking at maybe staying where they're at, but they were interested in.
Correction. Or, you said general services.
General services handles all the buildings for the state
I'm saying.
as far as the contracts.
Specific.
Yeah, I didn't name the office.
She did.
Yeah, so they've looked at our building for probation parole, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's still negotiation.
Yeah.
Whether they stay where they are or go somewhere else.
So we've looked at the old work release building that we have, and we have listed for sale on Warren Avenue, or Jackson Street, in the right across the street, old sheriff's office. We've also talked about tearing that building down for parking.
Yeah.
So that's something the next building committee will be back talking about. But they have not gotten back to us as far as are they still interested or not. I know they had a public hearing about those two sites, but
I would imagine you'd have to do some valuation on what the cost would be to renovate that building, considering the size.
and if how long the lease they want to give, and
Yeah.
what they'd be willing to pay, and how long they, so yeah.
Yeah.
If you had to put $100,000 into it, what are they willing to pay over, say, a 10-year period?
Exactly.
It's a worthwhile.
Then we do the similar thing when the police department moved over there. We had to upgrade the building a little bit.
We actually had to replace HVAC in and do a little bit of paint, a little bit of work, but we got $48,000 a year for 4 or 5 years there that they were in the building. But,
And the
otherwise,
upgrade would be expensive on that because
Oh,
it
yeah.
does have a whole lot.
yeah.
So just kind of recap on everything. The department provides maintenance for roughly 30 buildings. That includes all the concession stands for Parks and Rec and everything, and cleaning services for about 7. We do provide maintenance for EDA properties, and they are billed back for the material time and the employee costs for that. And pretty good summary of what all we do. Just personally in my position, I do oversee a lot of our Parks and Rec construction projects. Obviously still do the grant writing, environmental studies that go along with that, and overseeing the projects that are grant funded as they're constructed. So
These responsibilities of general services, 2 years ago, the board created two positions, the general services director and the public works director. Those functions were under Bob, part of his responsibilities. I'm not going to throw Bob under the bus, but things like doing a fire and protection schedule, you didn't have the time to do
I had
that.
prioritized
Yeah,
on
yeah.
a
So,
minute basis.
so Mike, and two, especially with Mike, building capacity that, Bob has hit 30 years of VRS, and at some point Bob's going to retire, but bringing Mike along, Mike has been learning the ropes as far as road construction and sanitary district maintenance, and though Bob's the primary contact on the farms, Mike handles the other districts. Yeah. And Brandy took over facilities.
Unless there's questions, Brandy, thank you very much.
Hi, thank you guys.
Send Taryn in.
she's right there.
Morning. Afternoon almost.
You're the only thing between them and lunch. So.
Every year. How are you all?
Hi Karen, how are you
I'm
today?
good. How are you all?
Doing good.
So just really briefly about our department. We have myself as the planning director. We have Matt, he's the planner, and also our floodplain manager. We have Joe, he's the zoning administrator. Emma, she does all of our GIS and the mapping for the county. And then we have Cindy as our part-time secretary for the department. So that's the staff breakdown. We handle the Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Well and Septic Appeals Board, Development Review Committee, the Joint Tourism Committee, the Ag Forestal District Committee, and we do the Anti-Litter Council. Those are kind of the boards that we handle. I'll be presenting my annual report at your meeting next week, so you'll get a better overview. But we do, we approve the subdivisions, lot consolidations, boundary adjustments, site plans. We do the comprehensive plan, which will be starting that update this year. We recommend the capital improvement plan to the board, which we'll be doing it later this year. And what else? We have the agricultural and forestal districts that need to be reviewed and renewed this year as well. So those are kind of our big items this year coming forward. We do all the conditional use permits. Those are usually on your agenda each month. So as far as my budget, we have the salaries are the first part, and then the big changes, I had to request more for the travel and training for our commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals. This is the first year I ever remember having 3 new Planning Commission members and 3 new Board of Zoning Appeals members. So they will need to be certified, so they'll have the training. I've already met with all the Planning Commission, the new Planning Commissioners, and provided them they can choose. There's 3 trainings this year they can choose to go to. So they're supposed to be certified within 18 months of being appointed. So that cost it's $550 each for the training, and then they usually stay at least one night there. So that is the travel and training budget that's increased some. I had a decrease. We had a position that was a GIS administrator position, and then we had a GIS technician. And the GIS administrator, he left at the beginning of last year, but he was doing our intergov administration as well. And so we've taken that and just given that back to the consultant. David might have spoke about that earlier. So now it's just our GIS tech we promoted to GIS coordinator, and she's handling kind of all of the GIS. So I didn't backfill that position. And she's gonna get an intern this summer. We just put the ad out, so I think that'll help her for the summer. And she's handling the task of the position very well. Now that she doesn't have the intergov administration, I think that she's good.
It sounds like to me you've got your staff and you're not really unhappy with it.
We have a great team, and we work together really well, and we all have our responsibilities, but we're all covering for each other as well. So I think it's a good staff as it is. Yeah, good team.
So you don't think you need any more or any less?
No, sir. Not at this time. With the workload we have now, no.
At what point, I mean, how many plans and stuff are you doing to where, when are you anticipating needing help? Is it at 200 zoning applications or planning applications, or where are you gonna need help? Because we're gonna grow.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've fluctuated since I've been here. I mean, we hit a high back in 2004 through 2006. Yeah, we were at 425 homes. That was just homes that year. And last year we were at 150 homes. So.
You also had like the Syntax rezoning. That was kind of high time, I think.
Yeah, that was a high time. I mean, each year, I mean, it differs by year. Some years we'll have large rezoning requests that kind of take all of our time through the year. But permit-wise, I mean, we handle all the zoning permits that come through for all the building permits. So I'm not really sure. I mean, right now we're fine. If something happens where we need more help, then that would be my budget request that year.
More likely than not, when the recession hit, we cut back the assistant to part-time to save money. We did a number of, we cut some positions, we cut some from full-time to part-time, probably making that position full-time, so down the road would probably
That would
be
be the next thing, yeah.
I mean, but your department is one that it could grow exponentially if things happen and we just happen to have 300 homes next year. Are you going to be able to handle 300 homes with what you have? I guess that's my question. Because I don't want you to be short, and I don't want you to have a...
Remember this, though. Where are the new homes going to be? They're in the town of Front Royal, like Swan. They're in town, and Taryn doesn't see them.
Yeah.
Right.
This was actually the highest number the town has had since I remember. And that was only like 25, but still, I mean, they were doing, 10 a year. So this was
There's enough in Shindo Farms to keep us busy for the next 20 years, but... Yeah. Unless the board approves some big development out in the county, which nothing's on the horizon, you're going to see it in town limits.
Come on, Doug.
No, county needs to stay 5 acres or better. I'm sorry. Let the town do their.
I do think that would be the
high
next,
density
taking the part-time administrative assistant to full-time. That would probably be because we did have a full-time for many years.
Just don't want you to get short. That's all.
How many do you think was general manufacturer?
20, 25.
Yeah, I was gonna say a little under 30.
Yeah, I was going to say 28. I think it was.
And there was a time it was 75, and
That's hard to find good lots.
Yeah, hope those days don't come back.
I don't think that's coming back.
Your budget-wise, you'd like it.
Yeah.
Any additional questions for Karen? Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you coming to see us.
Thank you.